He was just a hungry boy holding a single meal in his hands. But when he saw the frail old couple cold and starving on the street, he gave it up without hesitation. What he didn't know was that this small act of sacrifice would set off a chain of events that no one could have imagined. The very next day, a knock at his door would change his life forever. Who was waiting on the other side and why will leave you speechless. It was a quiet evening in a small, struggling neighborhood. Jamal, a young black boy, barely 12, carried himself with a quiet resilience far beyond his years. Life had never been easy. His shoes worn thin, his stomach often empty, but his spirit never dimmed. Every day after school, he walked past crumbling buildings and shuttered stores, clutching the modest meal his mother managed to save for him. For Jamal, this meal was more than food. It was a rare moment of comfort in a world that often reminded him of what he lacked. Yet on this night, fate placed someone in his path, an elderly couple, fragile and forgotten, shivering with hunger on the very corner he crossed each day. Jamal paused, torn between his own gnawing hunger and the hollow eyes staring back at him. He didn't know it then. But the choice he was about to make, one that seemed small in the moment, would ripple through his life in ways he could never imagine. Jamal's stomach tightened the moment the food left his hands. Hunger clawed inside him, but he forced a small smile as the elderly couple whispered their thanks. He turned away, trying to convince himself he'd done the right thing, even though his own body screamed otherwise. That night, he went to bed with nothing but water in his belly. He told himself he was strong, but deep down the emptiness ached. The next morning, the consequences hit harder. At school, while other children unpacked their lunches, Jamal sat quietly, pretending he wasn't hungry. His classmates laughed, trading snacks, unaware of the boy whose bag was empty. The teacher glanced at him once, pity flickering across her face, but she said nothing. Jamal was used to that. People noticing his struggle but never stepping in. Yet what stung more wasn't the hunger. It was the way the world looked at him. As he walked home that afternoon, clutching his worn backpack, a shopkeeper eyed him suspiciously. He hadn't even stepped foot inside, but the man's gaze followed him like a warning. Don't steal, don't cause trouble. Jamal kept his head low. He was just a boy, but to them he was already guilty of something he hadn't done. That evening his mother came home exhausted, her uniform still damp from long hours cleaning offices downtown. She noticed Jamal's silence, the way he avoided her eyes. He wanted to tell her about the old couple, but he feared she'd be angry. After all, every meal mattered. Instead, he said nothing, carrying the secret alone. But the world doesn't keep secrets for long. The next day, whispers spread through the neighborhood. Someone had seen Jamal hand over his food. Some admired his kindness, but others mocked him. "He's too soft," they muttered. "He doesn't know how to survive." The cruelest cut came when an older boy sneered at him in front of others. "You're just a fool, giving up food when you barely have any yourself." Laughter followed, echoing louder than the truth. Jamal tried to brush it off, but the sting of humiliation burned deeper than hunger ever could. His good deed was twisted into weakness, his compassion into shame. Alone in his room, he wondered if he had made a mistake. Was kindness a burden in a world that expected him to be hard, cold, and unfeeling just to survive? And yet, what Jamal didn't know was that someone had been watching. A passerby, a man who had seen the entire exchange between the boy and the old couple, carried that image with him. To the world, it was just a fleeting moment on a street corner. But to him, it was unforgettable, because that man wasn't just anybody. He was someone whose presence would soon shake Jamal's life to its core. The knock came early in the morning. Jamal froze, still half asleep, the sound echoing through their small apartment like thunder. His mother opened the door cautiously, only to find a sleek black car idling at the curb and a tall man in a tailored suit standing at their doorstep. His presence felt out of place in the cracked, weary streets of their neighborhood. Whispers spread quickly. Neighbors peeked through blinds, already assuming the worst. A black boy from a poor family and now a stranger in a luxury car. People muttered about trouble, crime, suspicion. Jamal stepped forward nervously, his thin frame dwarfed by the man's towering presence. The man bent down slightly, his eyes fixed on Jamal. "You don't know me," he began, his voice steady. "But I know what you did." Jamal's heart skipped. How could this stranger possibly know? Before he could speak, another voice cut in. A security guard from down the block stormed over, shouting at Jamal's mother. "What's going on here? You people always hiding something. You better tell him to leave before there's trouble." The man in the suit turned sharply, anger flashing in his eyes. But Jamal felt the sting first. The assumption, the accusation, the weight of being seen as guilty when all he had done was show kindness. The street seemed to hold its breath. Jamal looked from the hostile guard to the watchful neighbors, every stare pressing down on him like chains. This was the moment he feared most. That his act of sacrifice would be twisted into suspicion, that kindness would be punished instead of honored. And then, the man's next words shattered the silence. "Son, I came here today because you reminded me of something I lost long ago, and I promise you, this world will know who you are." In the days that followed, Jamal's life began to change. The man in the suit was no ordinary passerby. He was a millionaire who had once known the sting of hunger himself. He shared Jamal's story with the world, and what had started as a quiet act of sacrifice became a symbol of hope. Donations poured in, opportunities opened, and for the first time, Jamal's family could breathe without the constant fear of going without. But beneath the surface of celebration lay a harsher truth. Why had it taken the attention of a wealthy man for Jamal's kindness to be recognized? Why had his neighbors mocked him instead of lifting him up? Why had suspicion and judgment been his first reward? These questions lingered like shadows, reminders of a system where compassion is often buried beneath prejudice, and where poverty and race dictate how the world sees a child before he even speaks. For Jamal, the lesson was bittersweet. He discovered that kindness carries weight, that even in a world that doubts, mocks, or misunderstands it, one act of humanity can ripple farther than he ever imagined. Yet he also learned how quickly society looks past children like him until someone with power decides their lives matter. And so his story is more than a single moment. It is a mirror, a reflection of the countless boys and girls whose voices go unheard, whose sacrifices are unseen, until the world decides they are worth noticing. The question is, how many more Jamals will it take before compassion is valued without wealth? Without status, before it is valued simply because it is human?